Hello and welcome. We're here to talk about things of importance to the Caucasus. I'm Dr. Joanne Lisosky, journalism educator and author, and with me today, Sevinc Osmanqizi, Azerbaijani journalist and video blogger and owner of Osmanqizi TV. Thank you. Thank you. So it's April 24th, a very historic day in Armenia. And just a few hours ago, US President Biden broke with former presidents and recognized World War I era killing of Armenians as genocide. In 1948, the United Nations Convention on Genocide defined it as a crime of acting to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. How do you react to what the president just did?
Well, as you can imagine, Joanne, you yourself lived in Azerbaijan. You were teaching journalism back there. It is a big story, obviously, in Azerbaijan and in Turkey, as you can imagine. And obviously, a lot of people feel upset by this decision because they feel that this is unjust, that a president or indeed any state leader who wants to pay tribute to tragedies, they would go ahead and do that. But calling it a genocide, in fact, recognizing distortion of history, is not something that a credible statesman or president would do. We know that Turkey has offered to establish a historic commission, a commission that will consist of historians from both sides, from Armenia and Turkey, and this offer has been ignored for years now. And President Biden taking this bold decision and calling, recognizing as a genocide, obviously is going to backfire, is going to have a lot of consequences in a lot of spheres.
So why, in fact, does modern Turkey oppose this label of genocide when really it's the Ottoman Turkey that's at the center of this designation?
Well, first of all, there's a lot of distortion going on there. The historians that I speak to, that I interviewed, they say that there were not 1.5 million Armenians to live there, yet to be killed. So the figures have been considerably exaggerated. The facts have been distorted. So the very fact that as if 1.5 million Armenians were killed does not constitute a reality. And indeed, it was a war, so both sides suffered tragedy. And indeed, again, this is after 106 years. The best that any state or statesman or can do is just to leave it to historians to figure out, to find more facts. You know, it is so hard. I mean, we just came out from yet another war between Azerbaijan and Armenia, and look, we are only 5 months after this war, and there's so much disinformation out there. And both sides present them as facts. Like, for instance, about mercenaries, you remember that the Armenian side was saying that there were Syrian mercenaries in Azerbaijan, so on and so forth. But look, those things were impossible to prove because they were simply lies. And therefore, to go back decades, for 106 years, and claim that this is a fact, this is what has happened, and also blame the modern Turkey for that. Of course, it's something that is not admissible. And also, if you look at the language of the statement, the very sentence of Biden's statement says that a genocide that began 106 years ago. Now, we're both journalists. We know that every sentence, every word has a meaning, is there for special purpose. And claiming that genocide that began 100 years ago also unconsciously implies that this genocide goes on, is continuing today. So therefore, this is a huge really mistake. I mean, claiming or proving or putting forward such a claim. I know that the Armenians are distorting the Second Karabakh War as well. They're trying to portray it as something that has been conducted together between Azerbaijan and Turkey. Whereas one can claim that it was also Armenia and Russia. You know, Russia has its base in Armenia. Now they're opening their second base in Armenia. We know for a fact that Armenia used Russian-made, Russian-produced, Russian-imported weapons, including Iskander M rockets. That we have. We know this for a fact because they're displayed now today in Azerbaijan, and yet we cannot get any response neither from Yerevan or from Moscow. How did this rocket explode in Azerbaijan's territory in Shusha just before its liberation? So imagine how hard would it be to go back 106 years ago and prove who did what, who suffered, how many people, was it really genocide, was it part of war? So therefore, bringing this into agenda today, making that claim today when there's still peace, very fragile peace in Karabakh region, when we know that fresh statements, fresh claims are made every day. It was just thrown for a politician, for a statesman, for a party that is a side in the OSCE Minsk group whose job is to negotiate peace deal. And indeed, what the sides are looking at today is bringing, concluding a peace deal, because there is no peace deal. What we have is more than just a ceasefire deal, but way smaller what the peace deal should be or looks like. So at a time when United States could step in, play its role, and indeed bring a fresh breath or freshness to these diplomatic talks and efforts, what we're seeing instead is a step that really serves hatred rather than peace. It does not bring the sides any closer. It escalates tensions and sentiments. Look at anger in Azerbaijan, anger in Turkey, people in Armenia celebrating. Now we have something to get back at Azerbaijan. This is not something that United States wants. This is not something that U.S. taxpayers pay for their administration. The administration is there to build bridges, to bring countries together, to bring people together. And as a statesman, as a president, as a head of the state, you do not issue statements, especially in such a fragile time frame.
So there is news that President Biden called President Erdogan the day before. What does that tell you?
Hypocrisy, because Biden did not call Erdogan for how long? For 3 months. He's been in power for 3 months, and he not a single time he picked up the phone and called leader of a strategic partner, Turkey. And he calls him only on April 23rd, a day before he issues this notorious statement. What does it tell me? That there have been some negotiations behind doors, that he probably offered Turkey something in exchange. Maybe he asked Erdogan to turn blind eye to the statement that he's going to issue next day. Look, this is something that I have to do. Like, I don't believe, I don't want to. I know it hurts our relationships, it hurts the diplomatic negotiations, but this is something that I have to do because I promise Armenian diaspora, so on and so forth. So it tells me hypocrisy. I mean, if he really felt strong about this tragedy, he would just go ahead and issue that statement. The very fact that he calls Mr. Erdogan just the day before, it means that he understands that he's doing something wrong. He knows that it will have far-reaching consequences for the relations between the countries. He's apologetic and he's offering something in return.
Now, this issue is pretty close to you personally. Your father was killed in 1991 by Armenian separatists, and he was part of a peace delegation visiting Karabakh. How do you feel about this statement as a family member who was victim of war in Karabakh?
Betrayed. Actually, there was fresh hope that with the new administration in Washington, there will be new leadership, new initiatives, new processes, that United States will finally play a role of bringing the countries together. For instance, I remember something that was started under President Obama, the protocols between Turkey and Armenia about reopening borders, restarting trade, diplomatic relations, so on and so forth. So there was a hope, and in fact, I know that one of the American diplomats who did take part in reaching those protocols, Ms. Nancy McEldowney, is in Joe Biden's team now. So there was a hope that the Biden's administration will take the opportunity, the historic opportunity, to play a role of mediator. As Biden says, America is back. So this is how America will be back. But seeing that Biden is actually attacking one of the sides, calling names, that he's been this biased, this obviously upsets me as someone who lost a relative in this war. In fact, my father was, as you mentioned, he was a member of a peace delegation. It was a delegation consisting of officials from Azerbaijan, from Kazakhstan, from Russia. They were flying to Karabakh to find out what is going on, to negotiate the details of the peace deal. And just before the peace deal, only a couple of days before this peace agreement was about to be concluded, this helicopter was shot down, and everyone in this helicopter, including my own father, Osman Mirzaev, died. So what I feel about it, I feel betrayed, because you look at bigger states and bigger countries, and you think that they will finally see their roles, that there is a gap, that something that cannot be done by smaller countries in place because they're engaged in this ongoing hostilities, and someone would finally put forward a peaceful initiative that I'm here to negotiate. Let's put back whatever happened in the past. Let's look to the future. What is that we can do together? Let's sit together and look for and work for the peace for the region. So when I see something opposite happening today, April 24th, 2021, this obviously upsets me. I do understand, or I can imagine what is going on behind this statement. Someone promised someone Armenian diaspora because they paid someone money, big bucks. So when I come to power, don't worry, I will pay you back, I will issue this statement, etc. But this generally upsets me, this hypocrisy that someone can be bought over things like that matter for millions of people. There are a lot of people like myself who lost their families, fathers, brothers, daughters and sons in the war, and this is not something that we should be doing today. We should be looking ahead. We should not be going back to the past and see who started the fire, who killed whom. This is not what the region needs, really. And this is not the expectation of United States. I'm sure that as an American, you have similar feelings as well, that we are there. We want to be a side that brings peace. We're not there to judge who's right, who's wrong, who started the fire.
So you mentioned earlier about the Minsk group and the ceasefire for the Second Karabakh War, and the U.S. hopefully is trying to negotiate that peace right now, along with France and Russia, and Turkey is in there as well. Do you think that this recognition of this genocide will actually limit the ability of the Minsk group, or certainly the U.S. involvement in that Minsk group, Will it limit their ability to find peace in this region?
Absolutely. I mean, 100%. I mean, let's just imagine a statement by French President Macron during the Second Karabakh War. What damage it made to his country's reputation and perception when Mr. Macron said that, something like, we will never let Azerbaijan take over Karabakh, things like that. A lot of Azerbaijanis, including myself, we felt that this is not something, this is, again, distortion. We're looking at, for a lot of people, this is liberating their homelands. People were pushed away from their homes. They left behind their houses, and so on. So the belongings, and distorting, putting names is not something that contributes to the negotiations. And what happened is that was felt by France as well. People in Azerbaijan just said that that's it. France cannot be a negotiator. The Minsk group has lost its confidence. So that blow was felt very deeply. And indeed, Macron tried to fix his mistake. In fact, a couple of weeks later, he made appearance together with school students, and he was saying that, actually, if you look up in the books, etc., Nagorno-Karabakh is not recognized. It's a separatist regime, so on and so forth. So I think what Macron did, he didn't do his homework. Probably someone whispered to his ears. We can imagine who exactly these people were. But as a statesman, you should know the responsibility that every word that comes out from your mouth bears. So this played huge role, and it affected the perception how Minsk Group was perceived in Azerbaijan, and it was a huge blow. And when later on President Aliyev was meeting with OSCE Minsk Group, he was telling them, I did not invite you here. Why are you here? And it was resonating with the hearts of a lot of Azeri people. It's very hard to go back to them and tell them, look, we don't need just Russia. It shouldn't be Russia-dominated peace. They shouldn't be just Russian peacekeepers. That OSCE Minsk Group also should be involved. It's very hard to do that. So therefore, I think that Biden's statement is going to play a similar role. It will be very hard to convince people in Azerbaijan that United States, whose President Biden issued such a statement, should be playing more active role. I do believe that Minsk Group is over. In fact, today, 24th of April, may be the day that Minsk Group finally died, because it consists of three countries: Russia, United States, France. Russia is there, and its position is even more strengthened. But France has already discredited itself by Macron's biased position. And today, April 24th, United States, at a time when it could change their roles, when it could bring the fresh breath, fresh take to the table of negotiations. In fact, Biden did the quite opposite. So therefore, I do believe that it will be even more harder for OSCE Minsk Group to come back to the region and claim that it can be a neutral mediator.
Thank you, Sevinc. You also mentioned that we talk a little bit about Russia here. You talked a little bit about Russia, and Russia now is in much conflict with the West, and not just because it negotiated the ceasefire in Azerbaijan and Armenia. I mean, there are a lot of other things happening with Russia. Russia and Turkey were sort of at opposite sides in the Second Karabakh War. But now, this move by the US president, does it not give Russia more power and strengthen its position in Europe as well as in this region?
It certainly does, because as you know, the 9-10 November statement was negotiated, was indeed led by Russia, and previous attempts by United States and France, EU to negotiate a peaceful settlement during the Second Karabakh War failed. And this was Russia's initiative. Russia was able to put the sides together to stop the fire, the war, and negotiate whatever we have today as of November 9th of 2020. Now, what United States could do, and I know that behind doors those efforts were still going on, is to convince Azerbaijani officials, official Baku, but also Azerbaijan's public that this is the solution. It's not the solution of the conflict. That there should be something more, something about Nagorno-Karabakh status, whether it's going to be a cultural autonomy inside Azerbaijan, so on and so forth. So these efforts were going on. So therefore, Biden's statement comes in a critical moment, at a time when diplomats were really pushing hard, trying to bring the sides together. We know that works are underway to sign a bigger peace agreement between Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Russia. Again, neither Turkey or United States or Minsk Group are part. At least Turkey is not officially part of these efforts. So therefore, United States officials, how they could contribute to this process is issue statements that are confidence building, both in Azerbaijan and in Armenia. But when you blatantly take one side, when you just call it genocide, and also claim that genocide that began 106 years ago, which implies that it may be going on even today. So basically, you just prove that you are not fit to be a mediator, that you are not neutral, that you are biased. So therefore, it leaves us only with Russia. So therefore, Russia's position strengthens. It pushes Azerbaijan closer to Russia. It proves once again that it cannot rely on the West, on France, or on America this time because of the Biden's position. So what we have is that Russia has even a better stance, better position with the sides. Both Armenia and Azerbaijan. Armenia understands that it cannot survive without Russia's security guarantees, and Azerbaijan quite frankly understands that it cannot expect anything else from outside world, because if United States, if Biden issues this statement today, it means that it may be pushing the so-called Armenian Genocide legislation tomorrow. It means that it will be again displaying pro-Armenian position at the negotiations table. And let's not forget that the peace is not just about officials. Peace is made when the public accepts it. And this is a blow to these perceptions. That's why these blow on perceptions do matter. For people who are promoting Western orientation, American orientation in Azerbaijan, it's blow on these people, because all this time they were saying that, look, what does Russia promise you? Being with Russia, it means being corrupt. Being with Russia means poisoning your rivals. Being with Russia means crackdown on peaceful protests. So you should be looking behind Russia, that look what Europe promises you, look what United States can bring to the peace talks. But after statements like that is a huge blow on these people. It's going to be very hard from now on to convince people that United States still can be part of these negotiations, because I remember that years ago 907 Freedom Amendment to the Freedom Support Act was approved by U.S. Congress. And I know that in America itself, you ask 10 Americans, 9 people will never heard about Freedom Support Act, and 10 of them will never heard about Amendment 907. But in Azerbaijan, even when you go to some remote villages, you say America, I'm from America, people will tell you that, oh, 907, why did you Why do you have 907 against us? So this became like symbolic for U.S.-Azerbaijan relations, and people back then also saw this, as a blow. They felt that they were deceived. Like you lose your lands, your country is occupied, 20% of your territories are occupied, and U.S. Congress approves this amendment 907 to Freedom Support Act, that there can be no military to military support between America and Azerbaijan. Now this today, it may be just a symbolic, it's just a very little amount probably that United States could provide to Azerbaijan, but it became a symbol that wait a minute, it's a red signal that you cannot trust America. So I'm afraid that today's statement is similar to 907, because this is how it will be perceived by ordinary Azerbaijani citizens, that how come that you don't see what is going on here today in Azerbaijan? You don't see how many people were killed. You don't see our losses, and you go back and claim that there was a genocide 106 years ago. And what is genocide? Don't you think that people were killed in Karabakh today exactly because of this? Because their ethnicity, because they were Azeris, because they were Muslims. So unfortunately, again, it's just huge blow. It's gonna be very hard to defend United States from now on. So therefore, I find this statement wrong in so many levels.
Finally, I want to ask you a little bit about how you think this statement will affect NATO. Turkey is a member of NATO, very important member of NATO. How will this decision to recognize this genocide affect Turkey's position or its even willingness to cooperate with NATO?
Well, according to the press releases issued by the sides, the U.S. and Turkish president discussed the upcoming June summit in Brussels, NATO summit, where Biden and Erdogan will have an opportunity to meet. So, which means that regardless of what is going on, they will be meeting and talking at NATO framework. But again, the relationships between the states are just like the relationships between the people. You pinch someone's back, it's going to be very hard to talk about something else. So I think it is blow. It's going to be a huge blow on the Turkish United States relations, on U.S. relations with Azerbaijan, and in fact, a lot of people in Muslim world will also it will be red signal for them as well, because we don't know what exactly was going on in Biden's head when he decided to go ahead with it. I'm absolutely sure there were advisors who were advising him not to go ahead with this because it was just so wrong. I feel real pity for American diplomats who were working and still are working on some diplomatic solutions. I'm sure that people, with logic, rationale, were telling them that this is something wrong to do. So therefore, I don't know what exactly his preferences were. Is it, I let it to himself. But indeed, we're talking about one NATO member doing this against another NATO member. And I think it's just hypocrisy. No matter what Biden will be saying publicly, he already did what he did. Of course, it doesn't mean that he will approve the some kind of legislation tomorrow. I think that he will try to postpone that. He will be using again against Turkey to get something in advance. So this game, unfortunately, will go on and on. But therefore, I think April 24th was a bad day. Was a bad day for peace, for democracy, for those who were thinking or believing, hoping that United States has so much more to bring to the region. It's a bad thing who believe in bilateral, mutual relations. And indeed, it just brings more hatred. What we have today is more escalation, and unfortunately, this is not something that we need in the region today.
Thank you very much, Sevinc Osmanqizi, for your statement or your information on the statement that President Biden just made today about the genocide in Armenia 106 years ago. Thank you.
But before we conclude, because I know that you're a journalist yourself, you're a journalist educator yourself, and you've been to Azerbaijan, you've met a lot of people. This issue has been going on for so long. How do you feel today? I know that, someone who, one of those taxpayers, you pay, you elect your government. Is this something that you expected? And what is your reaction to today's statement?
I did read a great deal about this a couple days ago, that this was coming, and it is obviously, as you've already mentioned, a sort of a payback to the Armenian diaspora, which, surprising to me, there are many Armenians in the United States, but there are also Azerbaijanis in the United States. And it's just surprising to me that they have such a more powerful diaspora in this country than Turkish diaspora or
money.
Azerbaijani diaspora. Apparently it must be more money, because it's a symbolic gesture to pay back, as you said, to pay back people who helped during the last election. And I know that the vice president is from California. There is a great concentration of Armenians in California. That could have something to do with it too. They are very powerful in the California legislature and the California representatives in the U.S. government. So it's unfortunate that a foreign diaspora would have that much power to dictate, in a way, U.S. foreign relations.
That's unfortunate. That is really disturbing and unfortunate. Well, thank you very much, Joanne Lisosky.
And I hope we can talk again soon.
Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
Thank you.